When we think about the internet's big aha moments, our minds usually jump to the dot-com boom or maybe the rise of social media. But what if one of the most important years was one we barely even talk about? Today, we're going to rewind the clock to 1996. It was a year of these quiet but massive shifts that literally shaped the web we use every single day. And we're going to see it all through the eyes of one pioneer in online education. So let's just take a second and set the scene. Can you even picture it? What was the web actually like back then? Before Google, before iPhones, before you could get Wi-Fi in a coffee shop. It was slow. Dial-up slow. It was small. And for pretty much everyone, it was a total mystery. But in 1996, all of that was right on the edge of changing, radically and forever. Okay, so our story really kicks off at this amazing moment where the past and the future of technology are literally in the same room. We're with a Norwegian educator, Morten Flate Paulsen, and he's at a conference in Philadelphia. So get this, Vice President Al Gore is up on stage, flipping a switch to make this giant room-sized computer called ENIAC blink its lights. They're celebrating 50 years of this thing. But while everyone's looking back at old tech, Paulsen, well, he's wrestling with these super frustrating limits of the brand new tech.
And this really gets to the heart of the problem that needed solving. Paulsen's PhD work, it's completely stuck. His advisor is off doing consultancy in Africa, basically unreachable. The university's web services were clunky and just barely there. And yeah, email existed, but it just wasn't cutting it. This was the friction, the problem the web was just about to solve.
And that leads us to the big breakthrough moment. Back in Norway at the NKI Distance Education Institution, 1996 becomes the year. It's the year they launched their very first courses built entirely on the World Wide Web. And this wasn't just a small update, it was a total revolution.
And this is why it was such a big deal. First, for the first time, everything was in one place. The course material, the teachers, the students, all connected online. Second, it completely got rid of the huge costs of printing and shipping heavy textbooks. And third, you could update a course instantly for every single student all at once. It was an absolute game changer for distance learning. And check this out. It wasn't just some cool academic idea. It actually worked. In its very first year, this brand new model, with just 25 courses and around 450 students, brought in over 100,000 euros. The web was proving it wasn't a toy. It was a real, viable business. But the online course thing, that was only half the story. At the exact same time, a whole other revolution was kicking off. Not on the desktop computer, but in everybody's pockets.
And this created this kind of split personality in how people communicated. At work, Paulsen, like most people, kind of hated using his desk phone. He'd much rather use email. But in his personal life, whoa. Suddenly, these affordable Ericsson and Nokia phones were everywhere. All his friends had one, carrying them around, sending the very first text messages. A whole new kind of personal connection was being born right then and there.
And of course, he got one too. He bought this Ericsson phone right before the Atlanta Olympics. And it's such a small personal detail, but it just perfectly grounds this huge technological shift in a single, really relatable moment. And almost right away, his mind starts connecting the dots. He's looking at this little device in his hand and asks a question that was just decades ahead of its time. Could this little phone be used for education? For learning? The seed for learning on the go, the idea of knowledge in your pocket, it was planted right there in 1996. You see, this new connectivity wasn't just about the gadgets. It was about connecting people and their ideas. Paulsen's work took him over to Denmark, and there he saw firsthand how different cultures were already starting to grapple with this new online world in their own way. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the web wasn't just a tool. It acted like a mirror. In Denmark, Paulsen saw how their whole culture, which was really influenced by this philosopher Grundtvig, valued face-to-face community. Plus, the country is small, so there wasn't a huge need for purely distance education. So what did they do? They immediately started thinking about what we now call blended learning. It just goes to show you, right? From the very start, the web's awakening forced different cultures to bend the technology to fit their own values, not just blindly adopt it. All right. But there was one more critical piece of the puzzle that fell into place in 1996. The web was growing like crazy, but it was like a massive library with no card catalog.
How in the world were you supposed to find anything? And then, the first truly powerful search engine arrived. It was called AltaVista. It had launched just at the tail end of 1995, and it was the first tool that could actually crawl through the growing chaos of the web and make it searchable. For the very first time, you could actually find the needle in that global haystack.
Now, Paulsen was totally thrilled by this, but his alter ego, a cyber poet he called Cyberius Zip, well, he saw a different side to it. He wrote this poem, and it just perfectly captures that immediate tension, the excitement of being able to find anything, and the fear of being constantly watched and indexed. It's an anxiety that feels incredibly modern, doesn't it?
And, just to ground us, it's important to remember all this was happening during a year of major world events. Arafat becoming Palestinian president, Netanyahu's election in Israel, the Atlanta Olympics, and terrible tragedies like that plane crash at Svalbard. The web wasn't waking up in some kind of bubble. It was tangled up in this complex, messy, changing world. So, there you have it, 1996. The year web courses proved they could work, the year mobile phones really went mainstream, and the year search engines started to map our digital world. It was a brand new frontier, full of all this incredible promise, and some brand new anxieties too. It really just leaves us with one big thought. What new frontier are we building right now?